Have you ever really looked at your keys? Really looked at them. That little piece of metal you carry around every single day. Your house key, your office key, maybe even an old car key. They all have these very specific Hockade shapes. Those little cuts, grooves, and notches aren't just there for decoration, and they're definitely not random. So, why are they shaped that way? Why not just a smooth, simple piece of metal? And why is your key different from everyone else's? Today, we're unlocking the hidden logic behind one of the most common objects in our lives. We're going to dive into the brilliant and surprisingly ancient engineering of the humble key. It has a story that starts thousands of years ago and continues right up to the high-tech keys in our pockets today. Believe it or not, keys are not a modern invention. Archaeologists have found some of the earliest known locking mechanisms in ancient Egypt, dating back more than 4,000 years. Now, these weren't the small metal keys we use today. They were actually large, almost club-like, wooden tools. The locks were also made of wood, instead of the tiny metal cuts we see on our keys. These ancient keys used large wooden pegs that had to be lifted into the correct positions to open a bolt. Even all those millennia ago, the fundamental principle was exactly the same. Only the key with the right shape could open the lock. As civilizations developed, people started accumulating more valuable possessions, and the need for better security grew. Cities became larger and more crowded, and protecting your home and property became a top priority. This drove the evolution of locks and keys. They became smaller, stronger, and much more precise. The Romans, for instance, were masters of metalworking, and they are credited with inventing the first all-metal locks and keys. These were smaller, more portable, and a huge leap forward in security. They introduced the concept of wards, which are obstructions inside the lock that prevent the wrong key from turning. The key had to have notches cut out of it to bypass these wards. This is a design element that, in some form, still exists today. So, let's fast forward to the modern key in your hand. The most important part of your key is its jagged edge, the part that looks like a miniature mountain range. This is technically called the blade, and the cuts on it are known as the bitting, or the key's teeth. These teeth are the heart of the key's function. They are anything but random. They are a code, a physical password cut into metal. Inside the lock cylinder, that's the part you stick your key into, is a series of small spring-loaded pins. These pins are split into two parts, a driver pin and a key pin. When there's no key in the lock, the driver pins are pushed down by the springs, blocking the cylinder from turning. Now, here's where the magic happens. When you insert the correct key, the teeth on the blade lift each of the key pins to a very specific height. The goal is to align the break between the key pins and the driver pins perfectly along what is called the shear line. When all the pins are aligned at this shear line, the path is clear and the cylinder can rotate, unlocking the door. If you use the wrong key, the teeth will push the pins either too high or not high enough. The shear line remains blocked, and the lock won't turn. It's that precise. This is why a key that looks very similar to yours won't work in your lock. And it's also why old, worn-down keys eventually stop working. Over years of use, the metal on the teeth can wear away, even just a tiny fraction of a millimeter. Eventually, it wears down enough that it can no longer lift the pins to the exact right height, and your trusty key fails. Think about it. A key is essentially a piece of data storage. A physical password. The unique shape is designed to prevent the wrong person from gaining access. If all keys were smooth or identical, any key could open any lock, and they'd be completely useless. Security comes from uniqueness. By varying the depth of the cuts, the spacing between them, and the overall pattern, manufacturers can create millions, even billions of unique combinations for a single type of lock. A tiny difference in a single cut. Sometimes a difference smaller than a grain of rice is all that separates an open door from a locked one. That's why your key feels so specific, because it absolutely is. Now, you might also be wondering about the other features of a key. Why are most of them flat? Well, there are a few practical reasons. Flat keys are much easier and cheaper to manufacture. They're also easier to carry around in your pocket and simpler to insert into a lock. But the flat shape serves a security purpose too. Look closely at the side of your key, and you'll likely see long grooves running down the length of the blade. These are called wards, or millings. These grooves act as guides, ensuring the key enters the lock the correct way up. But more importantly, they are another layer of security. The inside of the key with a slot? You put the key in has ridges that correspond to these grooves. If a key doesn't have the correct groove pattern, it won't even fit into the lock. It's like a pre-screening process before the pins are even engaged. It's a simple design feature with a very clever purpose, adding another barrier to prevent the wrong key from being used. It's kind of amazing when you consider how much technology has changed our world. We have smartphones, electric cars, and artificial intelligence. And yet, the basic design of the pin tumbler, lock, and key, which was patented by Linus Yale Jr. in the 1860s, has remained fundamentally unchanged for over 150 years. Why is that? The reason is simple. It works, and it works extremely well. Traditional mechanical keys are incredibly reliable. They don't need batteries, they don't need a software update, and they can withstand being dropped, getting wet, or being tossed in a bag with a bunch of other stuff. They're also relatively affordable to produce and easy to replace if you lose one. This combination of reliability, durability, and cost-effectiveness is why millions of doors all over the world still rely on this centuries-old technology. Sometimes, the best designs don't need to be completely reinvented. They just need to be refined. Of course, key technology hasn't stood completely still. Modern keys, especially for cars, have become much more complex. But if you look closely, you'll see they still follow the same basic rules. Many modern car keys have a unique laser-cut pattern, often a wavy track milled into the side of the blade rather than cuts on the edge. These are called sidewinder or laser-cut keys, and they allow for even more unique combinations, making them harder to pick or duplicate. But the real evolution is the combination of the old and the new. Most modern car keys also contain an electronic chip called a transponder. When you put the key in the ignition, the car sends out a low-frequency signal. The transponder chip in the key is energized by this signal and sends back a unique code. If the car's computer recognizes the code, it allows the engine to start. So you have a two-factor authentication system. The physical shape of the key unlocks the steering column and ignition, while the electronic chip gives the digital all clear. It's the perfect marriage of a 4,000-year-old idea with 21st century technology. So, the next time you pull out your keys and hold one in your hand, take a moment to appreciate it. Every single curve, every groove, and every jagged notch is there for a reason. It's not just a random piece of metal, it's a tiny, intricate piece of engineering, a physical password that has been refined over thousands of years to solve a fundamental human problem: how to keep things safe. And that's the amazing, hidden story behind something you probably use every single day without a second thought. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into an everyday object, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. We love exploring the fascinating origins of the world around us. Let us know in the comments what everyday item you think we should investigate next. See you in the next video.